we associate peace activism with the left. And I'm from the right. I'm a second-generation libertarian objectivist. And that's an important thing to mention. I usually don't say that because I don't want to alienate people, but I want you to understand why I hate war so much and why I'm called to be angry at conservatives and religious conservatives and others who are pro-war, which is distinctly against the values they claim to hold. So thank you, and just congratulations to the Peace Coalition, because your 25 years of speaking the truth about reality, so many of you have worked so hard to maintain enthusiasm for a peaceful future. And without people like you, there'd be no point in publishing antiwar.com. Peace activists put the most important thing first, and that's the sanctity of human life. So thank you, and thank you for maintaining your enthusiasm and positive energy, because it lifts up angry libertarians like myself who feel that no one is listening to the truth about empire and war and occupation and torture. When we look back at this period in history, the United States, which is supposed to be the most civilized, modern democracy in human history, no one is going to speak kindly about this. No one's going to speak kindly about 400 years of slavery and colonialism and empire. No one. It's an evil, it's a scourge. Tonight my comments are going to be very different from my usual framing. When asked to speak at events, I try to meet my audience where they're at. And whether I speak to conservatives or people of faith or members of various oppressed groups, I try to hone in on what's important to them so that I don't come across as some kind of strident idiot, and I'm addressing concerns specifically that they have. But tonight's not that discussion. I don't know what a bold vision of a peaceful future looks like, and it's not because I lack imagination. It's because the first headline at antiwar.com this morning was, and I want to read this to you, U.S., NATO exploring possibility of joining ISIS war. Ashton Carter praises leadership of NATO's Jens Stoltenberg on getting alliance behind war. Now, if any, and most of you are very, very savvy about international politics, you know what that means. I mean, that's one more pretext for World War III. This is a horrible, horrible situation. Normally, I leave my ideology at the door when I speak at these events, and people are already leery of anti-war activists, and triple that if the anti-war activist isn't from the left, or at least is left as it's understood in the modern context. Though when Lawrence Samuels asked me to speak here, he specifically told me not to do that. I'm a libertarian, which is to say, I'm an anarchist. The defining value of my ethics stems from the non-aggression principle. The NAP, as we call it, is simple. It prohibits the initiation of force by one individual or group of individuals against another individual or group of individuals. And this is really simple. I'm against all forms of violence, save for self-defense. For me to realize this vision would not merely require the withdrawal of all troops. It would mean closing down all the military bases and an end to the structures and those who hold the monopoly of violence. And that would mean the end of the military, the end of the police state, the end of the government schools where children learn the lie of American exceptionalism, the abolition of prisons, and yes, the dissolution of the United States government. Now, before you say, but what about, I know I'm making people nervous, and I'm sorry about that, but I want people to be uncomfortable about war all the time. Every day I wake up in Los Angeles, and I'm surrounded by millions of people of every imaginable race, creed, color, speaking scores of different languages in both sexes and all gender constructs. These people, each individual, make exchanges with each other without treaties or armed guards. It rarely erupts into large-scale violence apart what is instigated through the police state and the drug war, which is both a cause and effect of empire. It's all one thing, all the violence. We're nowhere near a peaceful world, though we're so desperate for peace, and I don't want to offend anyone, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from here, that we're willing to take a gamble on a billionaire performance art stunt like the one Donald Trump has been playing. And we're willing to put our faith in a very conventional, moderate liberal like Bernie Sanders. And no disrespect, I wish Bernie Sanders were as far to the left as people claim he were. Because if he were that far to the left, he'd say withdraw every damn troop and close down every damn base tomorrow. And, it's not hope and change. It's desperation that we cling to, that somebody in the mainstream could possibly be that change. Empire is the basis of all our politics. One can't be a serious human being or a contender for president unless he or she backs the US military unconditionally. We know this because people as diverse as Jill Stein, Chuck Baldwin, Cynthia McKinney, Ron Paul, Ralph Nader, and other people who are qualified to do just about anything are routinely slandered and destroyed if not ignored entirely. What do they have in common? They tell the truth about human stupidity and violence. By the way, if you want to listen to somebody who really knows a lot about foreign policy, I'd like you to listen to Jill Stein's interview with Scott Horton of Anti-War Radio. Dr. Stein knows she's on top of what goes on every day. That's somebody you really need to listen to. I mentioned NATO and NATO in the headline. To me, NATO is a street gang representing the largest, most violent empire in human history. It must be stopped. And one of the ways we must stop this, and I know tonight we have a lot of vets in our audience, and vets are the most important part of the peace movement because they speak the truth, they know what they're talking about, and people get that. Okay, but it's really, really important that we stop glorifying war and its sacrifices, that we stop glorifying nationalism, that we stop over-militarizing every aspect of our culture, whether that's going to, on Southwest Airlines. How often have you been in Southwest Airlines and somebody says, yes, we have an active duty troop member. We never get up and applaud when someone on a plane is a peace activist, or helps children, or feeds the poor, or works in a soup kitchen, or any of the things that would be noble and the right things to do. We never honor those people. We laugh at them, we think they're silly. Our stereotypes about anti-war activists are a reflection of the ugliness of the American militarized soul. And because I'm a libertarian and people, and from the right, I want you to make clear, I speak to conservatives and religious conservatives and groups all the time, and I tell them what war and empire means and what it is they're actually supporting. When you're supporting the military lifestyle, you're supporting divorce, adultery, domestic violence, alcoholism, suicide, and the end of it, the disruption of families. I don't know what possible family values you could possibly be supporting if you're supporting that. And anyone who calls him or herself a Christian and supports that needs to have him or her head examined. That's horrible. That's evil. That's something you need to be held morally accountable to. I don't have a lot of faith in that. And I speak to left groups too, because understand, I see a big vision on this. There are people, liberals, people particularly who support Hillary Clinton unconditionally, even though this is a woman who basically has destabilized and destroyed Libya, where 6,000 black men have been killed in the civil war because of her actions, which she deliberately did. She's not a stupid woman. She knows exactly what she's doing. Last week, she promised when somebody in the New Hampshire town hall asked, can you promise us that you're not going to go into war? And she said, can't really promise that. You know what that means. She's a war criminal in training. That's horrible. And if you're from the left and you support any of the neoliberalism and support soft power like Samantha Power supports, you're supporting homophobia, you're supporting racism, you're supporting transphobia, you're supporting every kind of ism that dehumanizes the individual. There's no compatibility there. You can't be for the military and be for feminism. And this is an issue that's going to come up because they now want to expand the Secret Service and draft to women. I don't believe that's a fight for equality. That's a fight to implicate women in horrible, horrible violence and make us part of the military war machine. And if you think for a second I'm going to sit lying down before they send our young women off to war, no, I will not take that lying down. A few thoughts I want to leave with. And this is from somebody that people routinely dismiss as, he's a white male Christian, he's too old and too dotty. But I want to say his quote from his new book. Today it annoys me to no end when a chicken hawk thanks me for my service as if I were some kind of hero. That's Ron Paul. He doesn't like to be thanked for his military service. And he says in his most recent book, Swords into Plowshares, I was no hero. That's a damning statement, but it's a really true one about exalting. And one more thought too about, I know it made people a little upset about my anarchist statement about destroying the US government, but someone who's lost, I'm afraid, someone who I'm afraid will be lost to history, but he was a great theorist named Karl Hess. He was a war tax resistor, he resisted everything, he wanted no part of the empire. He said, whenever you put your faith in big government for any reason, sooner or later you wind up an apologist for mass murder. I want to be no part of that. So thank you, and thank you so much tonight for being uplifting and being here.